Jenny, it is such an honor to have you on the show. We have met for breakfast, and it was literally like the most eye-opening, helpful breakfast. I just know this hour is going to be amazing for our listeners. So for those people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here, Candice. You are a poster child of wild courage, which is the name of my book, which is subtitle "Go After What You Want and Get It." Because we met in person because you said, "I am thinking about writing a book," and I get asked this a lot by people. Can you give me 30 minutes to walk me through what it's like to write a book? And honestly, I unfortunately have to say no to a lot of them just so I can be mindful about my time. But you and your wild courage wrote me a different kind of email that said, I live an hour away from you, but I would like to hop in my car and drive an hour and take you out to breakfast, whatever is most convenient for you, and pick your brain about writing books. And you did that. And so we met someplace that was 4 minutes from my house. And I was like, anybody who's willing to drive an hour to come, chat, yeah, I'm in. So that is, now we've teed up what the name of my book is, Wild Courage, Go After What You Want and Get It. It all started on the New York City subway in 2011 when I saw a really attractive guy standing about 20 feet away from me. And I was too nervous to go talk to him, but I made a deal with the universe. I said, if he gets off at my stop, then maybe I'll talk to him. He gets off at the stop before me. I think that's the universe telling me it wasn't meant to be. But then as the doors are about to close, I feel this wave of wild courage push me out of my subway seat and off the train like a force behind me. And I chased after him. I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. You're wearing gloves, so I can't tell if you're wearing a wedding ring. But in the event that you're not married, you were on my subway and I thought you were cute. Any chance I could give you my business card? Fast forward 12 years, that man is now my husband and the father of our two children who are 10 and 8. And that was my moment of wild courage, right? The moment that started it all. And then I started using that in my day-to-day at work. I was at Google for 18 years, grew from entry level to executive. I ran an operations team that sat between sales and engineering and helped drive billions of revenue annually for Google. And then as a passion project, I founded a program called Own Your Career, which grew to be one of the largest career programs in Google's 26-year history, serving 56,000 people in nearly 100 countries. So that's a little bit about me and also why I adore you and why I'm so happy to be here having this conversation.
Oh, so cool. And I'm sure we're going to get into it, exactly what you do. I just love your story. I love that you landed up marrying that man. I think you probably inspire so many people to just go after that person. Like you've probably solved loneliness in so many people. Just that one little story.
If only I could solve loneliness. I will say the New York Times wrote a story about it. And it's evidence that people want permission to tap into their own wild courage because the reporter who wrote this story had worked at the Times for nearly 30 years. And it was one of the most viral articles. It was a full page article about this subway story called Serendipity 1, Spreadsheet 0, because I had a dating spreadsheet and fate won that day. The analytics lost.
That's a good title.
Right. And so, it became a very, very widely shared story. So I think you're on to something that people want permission, but ultimately nobody will give you that permission. You have to give yourself permission in whatever it is that you're pursuing, whether it's entrepreneurship or a promotion or a salary increase or a new friendship or anything else. You have to give yourself permission. No one else will.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, now we're going to go. My favorite part of the podcast is all the way back in time. Young Jenny, I don't know how old you are, teenager. What was that first job where you got that first taste of independence and earning some money?
So I was actually thinking, as you started asking the question, I was like, well, I worked at a bagel shop and I worked at a restaurant. I was a terrible waitress. But in reality, when you said where you got your first taste of it, it was like, no, actually, it was something else. As a child of the 1980s, decorated T-shirt ties. There were these things that you'd put the corner of your T-shirt through, almost like a belt buckle. You put the corner of your T-shirt through one side of it and it looked like a Ghostbuster sign. And then you just feed it through the other side and you'd cinch it up so your T-shirt would be tighter. I would decorate them with puffy paint and rhinestones. And I once sold them at like 7, 8, 9 years old to people on an airplane. I walked down the aisle and I sold my t-shirt ties or whatever they were called. And I loved building relationships with the passengers. In like the 20 seconds, I was talking to a person. I loved making money. Oh my goodness. I will never apologize for being a capitalist and loving the thrill of the chase and the thrill of the deal. Like this was 1987, people had cash, and I literally sold some of these not t-shirt ties. That's not the right name. Whatever
I know
it
what you're
was.
saying. It was like this big plastic
Ring.
thing. Yes. And I mean, I had some of those. They weren't nicely decorated though. So, but yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then funnily enough, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. My daughter is 8 and we were at her school choir holiday performance yesterday, and they'd given the kids all the same like school t-shirt to wear. And lo and behold, every single kid is wearing their t-shirt regularly, and my daughter has found a hair scrunchie, and knotted it up, and she's got the tight t-shirt, which is just so funny to think about.
Yay, the 90s.
Yes, totally.
They live on.
Exactly.
Oh,
So yeah,
I love that so much. I thought you were going to say your daughter's walking around selling things.
No, my kids run a mean lemonade stand. Here's the hack for the lemonade stand. Every other kid's out there selling lemonade for like $1.50. My kids have a QR code to Venmo, and it says, the sign says, pay what you wish, half goes to charity. So you've got these other kids who are chumps selling it for $1.50, and my kids are making $20 a cup because it says "pay what you wish, half goes to charity." Free jokes. It also we have this poster. They use it all the time. It also says free jokes. So I kid you not, they are making $10, $15, $20 a cup of lemonade, and then they have a local charity, this nature center, Thorn Nature Center here in Boulder, that they collect the cash. I think the last time they ran a lemonade, they had a lemonade stand, they brought like $87. So their revenue was 2x 87.
Wow. Incredible. Yes. My kids are thinking flavors, like top it up with this different flavor. My son also hustled at summer camp and sold South African chocolate. So
that's fun.
I feel like we have some stories to share. Okay.
And so sorry to all of you parents out there that I just called your kids chumps.
Okay.
I'm sure your kids are lovely people who make delicious lemonade.
But we all can share. We can all learn a trick or two. Right. Okay, so selling things on an aeroplane, amazing. I can't even imagine how cute that must have been as a parent now. I would have loved to buy that. Of course I'm going to buy that. I don't need it, but yeah. So I love that. Okay, and then you said bagel shop, you were a terrible waitress. Tell me a story about that, because I was too. I spoiled food on people.
I was a bad waitress because I live my life with high lowercase a anxiety, just like always stressed out, pretty type A, worried I'm letting people down, high desire to people please. And so as a server in a restaurant, I just got really flustered and overwhelmed. And I married, this stranger from the subway who's incredibly calm and centered and zen. And he is like so the yin to my yang. But I didn't do well as a server in a restaurant because I got overwhelmed. So I was like leaving tables without food because I was like so stuck in the silo of like, what does this one table need? I don't know. My parents came and my whole family came to the restaurant once, and I just was like very, very, very stressed out and flustered. I don't know. I was just a bad waitress. I'm not sure I have great reasons why, but I was.
Oh, did it teach you anything? I mean, you like making money. You said when you were on the plane, you like making those relationships in 20 seconds. So yeah. What about that young you in your 20s or, your late teens? What were some lessons learned of just doing all this stuff? I mean, I don't think anyone can say they sold things on a plane.
Right. Yeah. Some people, not many. Well, In my 20s, I had the opportunity to do some really interesting work at Harvard Business School. I studied economics and international business undergrad, and I was already in the Boston area, went to a small liberal arts school called Brandeis University, and Harvard Business School recruited from there for research associates. And so I got a job as a research associate doing 1 year negotiations, 1 year technological substitution and product strategy, and 1 year team leadership. And that was phenomenally fascinating work, just fascinating work, especially the negotiations work, because we studied lie detection in negotiations. So there was a game show called, what was it called? Friend or Foe is what it was called. Friend or Foe. And it was a classic prisoner's dilemma. You worked with a teammate to earn a certain number of points. And then in the end, you either, let's say the points represented X thousands of dollars. If you pressed, there's a secret button, you'd like face each other, a secret button underneath. You would press friend or foe. If you both pressed friend, you split the money on your secret button. If you pressed friend and if you pressed foe and they pressed friend, you got all the money. Opposite, if they did that, and then if you both pressed foe, nobody got any money. So so you had to convince your partner that you were going to press friend because you wanted them to press friend also, but you might still be lying and pressing foe. So what we studied was lie detection in negotiations. This was a mini negotiation, and we studied lie detection and what were the tells. TLDR, there really aren't a lot of reliable research-driven tells in lie detection in negotiations. Pupil dilation is one of the only ones that is actually research-based. But people were like, oh, if someone talks about their mother, then that means that they're telling the truth. Or if they invoke, religion, then they're telling the truth. But no, there didn't turn out to be any correlation, except for, this was also associated with other research. But it was really interesting work. And from that, I learned how much I was fascinated by people dynamics. So I think this does bring it back to the 20-second relationship building on the plane. Because whether, I was doing work around psychological safety, which wasn't even called that at the time. And, we're talking 2006, 2007 here. Or I was, researching lie detection and partnerships, or if it was research around how do you understand your customers' needs, which is also relational to understand whether you needed to develop new products. It all came down to how people work together. And in Wild Courage, which is based on 9 traits, Wild Courage is based on 9 traits that sound terrible, but when used in a sane and savvy way, they supercharge your success. Those 9 traits are weird, selfish, nosy, obsessed, brutal, reckless, manipulative, bossy, and nosy. I think I got them all in only once each. The manipulative trait is the courage to build lasting relationships and to recognize that no matter whether you're selling a product, an idea, or yourself, your ability to win friends and allies is all about giving others what they want and understanding others' needs. And so, whether I'm building relationships on an airplane at age 7 or 8, or I'm trying to understand my clients' needs to understand our product roadmap for the next 3 years, or I'm trying to win in a negotiation or expand the pie versus redivide the pie in a negotiation, it all comes down to the human connection. And that's why the manipulative trait, which is definitely the spiciest, is the most interesting one to me of Wild Courage.
Oh yeah, let's get into that a little bit. I guess I'm trying to unpack, what do you think it is about you that drove you into this curiosity? If someone's listening thinking, yeah, that sounds like me, but how do I know? What do you think was in you that just drove you to these decisions that got you employed as the researcher, in hindsight?
Yeah. Well, I'll mention another trait here, and that's nosiness. And that is the courage to get insatiably curious. Maybe a combination of that and reckless. Reckless is the courage to take intelligent risks, to err on the side of action, because better to learn from your mistakes than waste time analyzing the outcome of every possible decision. Think fast and fearless. And if you're on the fence, do it. And honestly, I kind of struggle with this trait a decent amount, like recklessness and going with my gut and not having a 200 item long pro con list is not the easiest for me. But I will say, Candice, it's what served me most in my career. That nosiness, the courage to dig deeper, using what and how questions, whether it's with my skip level at Google, trying to get promoted and saying, what would it take to get me to a director level here? How can I better align my tasks with your main KPIs for this year? Or, what would it look like if I built relationships with two of your peers on your leadership team, and who might those two people be who you recommend, who I might be able to add value to as well, right? That nosiness serves you well in any industry, in any job, in any job search, right? Get nosy about what other industries might be interesting to you. Get nosy, get insatiably curious about what might it look like if I dialed up my AI knowledge more. Where can I get some easy training online, right? There's so much available out there that helps us not be intimidated by all the changes that are coming with AI, the changes that are already here. And then, you pair that with recklessness, which again, doesn't come easily for me. In fact, there's this one framework I have called Move Then Map, meaning you don't have to have everything perfectly figured out. You don't have to have the perfect website. You don't have to have the perfect slogan on your business card. You don't have to have the perfect contract for your clients. Just recklessly go out and ask somebody if you could fulfill a need that they have, if you could solve a problem that you observe. And then slowly but surely, once you start asking for the money recklessly, then you build a business on the back of that, right? I have 40% of my revenue is one-on-one coaching. It is an accidental revenue stream for me, Candice, an accidental revenue stream. Just yesterday, someone emailed me and said, hey, I heard you in this speaking event. You mentioned you do one-on-one coaching. I'm looking on your website for the information. I don't see it. I do hundreds of thousands of dollars in one-on-one coaching a year, Candice. It's not even on my website. Like that's recklessness. It's like I just went and sought out clients before I even had a product. Mm-hmm. And you build and grow, you raise your prices, you figure out right pricing strategy from there. But let me get back to that. To me, that is like how you move and then map. You move into getting the customers, you move into asking for the dollar, and then you map into what that business could look like. And yes, I should probably put it on my agenda to put something about coaching on my website. But I tell this story often about how when I was in Montana with two really dear friends of mine, we were hiking. I love to hike. And we were in this beautiful state park and there were gorgeous hiking trails everywhere. But me, always wanting perfect information and struggling with recklessness, I said to the park ranger at a fork in the road, because I wanted to have the perfect hike and the optimized hike, I said, which path has more construction? Which one is muddier? Which one is an out and back route and which one is a loop? Which one is a lake view? Which one's a mountain view? And then from 50 feet away, my friend Taylor yells, Jenny, it's all gorgeous. Just start walking. And so it's like move, like just keep putting one foot in front of the other and then map out where you want the business to go, where you want your life to go, where you want your relationship to go. But action, not thinking, provides clarity.
Yeah.
Action, not thinking, provides clarity.
Yes. 100%. I've read your book, so I resonate deeply with the recklessness. That is the one I love the most. So yeah, very interesting. I have so much. I want to peel back the layers of you because you're so incredible. You just go for all this stuff. And I feel like people need this confidence, this energy around themselves. So, I have a fundamental belief that people should just love what they do every day, their work, because life's too short not to.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. And I'm wondering, like, your parents, how did they support you or push you, how did they fit in?
Yeah, they played a really, really meaningful role. I think I have always had a tailwind in my success because my parents deeply believed in me, my talent, my abilities. I think they gave me wild courage in part because you hear a lot of people talking about their parents as naysayers. I have a friend in the neighborhood and she's a real estate agent. And she said, how do you not let other people's, she said, she said, I hesitate to share my goals because when I do, other people tamp me down. She said, I just shared my goal about moving to Manhattan and being a real estate agent there. And my mother said to me, you're like barely a good enough real estate agent in the small town of Boulder, Colorado, where we live. And I was like, how lucky am I that my parents were always a massive tailwind for me, not a headwind. And one of the biggest professional challenges, not setbacks, but kind of felt like a setback because I just had no idea if I was making a terrible choice, was leaving Google to become an author and a thought leader and a speaker. And it's like, what am I doing? I'm leaving my Google exec role as the primary breadwinner for my family, where I have a good reputation and an amazing team and I'm having impact and getting paid oodles of money. I'm going to go leave to be a starving artist. And I oftentimes talk about, and this would tap into the shameless trait. Shameless is the courage to push past your imposter syndrome, to stand behind your efforts and your abilities and your talents and your skills. And yet I, like everybody else, struggle with imposter syndrome, especially when something is new. And a big helpful antidote to shameless is understanding truths and tales and rewriting your unhelpful tales to be more empowering. So first, let me break down what I mean by that. A truth is a verifiable fact. This is a pen. Okay, this is a black pen. I'm holding up a black pen in my hand. Candice, do you agree this is a black pen?
Yes.
Okay,
That is
that's a
black
truth.
pen.
It's a verifiable fact. The tale is the story I create that doubts fuel, sorry, I said it the wrong way. It fuels doubt, worry, assumptions, fears. So the tale might be, this black pen is going to explode all over my hand. It's going to ruin my laptop. It's going to ruin this podcast. I'm going to be an embarrassment. It's never going to come off of my hand. My kids are going to be embarrassed by me when I pick them up at school today. That is a tale. That doesn't serve me well. So, and I promised to tie this back to my parents and my upbringing, but when I was thinking about leaving Google, and it was so terrifying to think about leaving this place that had been everything I'd known professionally for the most part for 18 years, I had to separate the truths and tales. So let's start with the tales. A tale was, we're going to run out of money and we're going to have to move out of our house in Boulder by all the hiking trails in a neighborhood that I love. Well, what was the truth there? I'm simply not going to get a paycheck from Google with the Google logo on it every 2 weeks. Another tale, I'm going to lose my entire identity, Candice, because it's so ingrained in who I am, being a Google leader. But what's the truth? I simply no longer will be employed by Google. I can have an identity in many other ways. And now let's get back to the parents. A tale, my parents are going to be disappointed in me as the primary breadwinner for my family. Well, what's the truth? My parents have always been supportive of me in pretty much every endeavor I've done. And I'm really lucky that I grew up in an environment where that was the case. But even if you grew up in an environment where your parents were more like that real estate agent's mom who was going to be the gremlin on her shoulder and tamp her down and like crush her dreams, not help her live into her dreams, separating truths and tales can be so powerful in helping you live into your full potential, right? Think about everything that's happening with AI. Tale, AI is taking all of our jobs. Truth, AI is here to stay. More empowering tale. AI is going to help me do my job faster so I don't have to be working until 11 p.m. every night like I did last year. So it's a really powerful tool to push past that fear and to help you be more shameless.
Yeah, this is so excellent, because I think we get caught up in the story we tell each other, in that fear or tell ourselves, and in the fear and what ifs, but you don't know. You don't know if that's going to be the outcome or if it's going to be phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I thought that I would barely make any money this year. Like, that's why it took me a year and a half to decide that I actually wanted to leave Google, because despite the fact that we've got lots of savings, I couldn't imagine. And I think this is what a lot of people think about when they think about changing industries or changing roles or leaving their company to be an entrepreneur or doubling down on a new revenue stream they've never really spent a lot of time thinking about, as, in their own company or in their small business. And that fear of uncertainty, fear of failure, fear of judgment by others, which, by the way, is the three fears that, Wild Courage helps people push past and hopefully gives you the tools to do so. It's it's that fear of what if it doesn't work out? But then think about all the times that it does work out. And then you look back and you think, could I have the last year back where I spent all this time stressing out and like, here we are, making more money than we ever could have imagined, whatever it is for you. And like, that was wasted energy. Sometimes stress can be productive, but think about what was your productive stress this past year? What actually helped you? What lit a fire under you? What helped you be obsessed, right? The courage to set your own standard, to push, persist, and perform. That's good stress. But where was the unproductive stress where you were just spinning out, you were catastrophizing, you were fortune telling, as they say in psychology, and it didn't serve you well, and it slowed you down. It made you feel stuck. It made you feel like a deer in headlights every time you opened up your laptop, and you realized you just couldn't work efficiently or in deep flow because you were so preoccupied with this attention residue on the stress that you were thinking about of all the reasons you could fail. Sometimes we fail, and that's okay, because if you don't have a few fouls, you're not really in the game. But there's so many successes that we forget to celebrate.
Yeah. I actually had coffee with my friend just before this, and we were looking back at 2025 and all the things that we achieved. So there's so many things we didn't achieve, but so many things we did. And I feel like that in itself is super helpful. All right. I want to go back to, so I know it took you just over a year to decide to leave Google, and you paint a great picture, and Google is known as being, just one of the most amazing places to work.
Yeah.
But what are some of the harder times, the lessons learned that you would like to share with people listening to this, watching this?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, do a lot of one-on-one coaching. I have a lot of clients from Google. And one thing I just want to take everybody and shake them about is stop being so obsessed with promotion. And one of the lessons I learned was how much wasted energy I put into the title, the salary, my own perception of how much I could influence with a certain title. Like someone said to me the other day, well, I want to get promoted because then I think I can be more influential. And I think that I'll get better alignment with my stakeholders. And I was like, dude, you don't gain influence skills from your title. Sure, it can sometimes help, but you gain it from your ability to rally a team. You gain it from your ability to sell your ideas with what I call the GRAB framework. Have your first slide be a slide that says GRAB. Here's the goal. Here's the request, right? Don't bury the lead. What do you want from this big VP in your company? What's your action you're going to take next? And what's the benefit to them? Let's say that you're working at a music company, and the goal might be to invest in a new streaming service, right? The request is we need $250,000 to invest in this marketing campaign. The action is that you want to start a social media 3-channel campaign by, January 16th. And the benefit is that revenue from an increased number of subscribers will help fund AI insights, and that'll be better for the company, in 10 years. So that's how you have influence. I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was just being so tightly wound around getting promoted and not recognizing that I can still learn and influence and be successful and grow even without that title. But if we're also just talking about classic, doozies of a moment in my career, I've always been a little weird. That's why it's chapter 1 of Wild Courage, or trait number 1 of Wild Courage. And it's the courage to stand up for who you are, to be authentic, to recognize that you can win as you or lose as who, right? And so we were once, there was an award that I wanted my team to enter. There were 30 people at the time on this one particular team. And rather than filling out the Google form of client impact and how long was the project and, what was the revenue associated with it, I was like, let's make a music video. We should make a music video addressing all these questions. We spent an unbelievable amount of time making this ridiculous music video. And I was like, we've got this in the bag. And then we did not win. We did not get second place. We did not get third place. We did not get anything. And I was so embarrassed, Candice, because, I know I'm a little bit out there. I know I'm a little bit zany, but even though oftentimes own that, of course we work in environments where you sort of feel like you have to fit the mold of the culture of the organization. And in this culture, in this particular team, it wasn't very out of the box. And I actually was mortified as I walked through the halls, and I would pass VPs who were on the selection committee, and I'd like shrink down thinking that they were thinking, there goes Jenny Wood, that senior leader, wasting company time and resources and on some ridiculous music video, as they rolled their eyes at me, right? These were like the tales in my head. But then 2 years later, I was sitting in the office of one of those VPs, and he said, Jenny, remember that music video you made a couple years ago? And I thought he was going to reprimand me. And I like shrunk down in my seat. He's like, keep doing that. That will serve you well. That creativity, that authenticity, that basically weirdness, even though he didn't say the word, is what makes you who you are. It's what attracts people to you as a leader, and it's gravitational. And so, whatever it is that you are doing right now, whether you're launching a product, you're applying for a role, or you're improving a process, how can you think differently? How can you be the one that says, what if we did it this way instead? How can you diplomatically disagree with your VPs if you're in the room as an intern, right? Like, how can you stand out in a way that makes you memorable? Because otherwise you'll sink without a trace. If you're one of 6 interns for the summer, sure, wear the expected business casual, format your resume exactly how everybody suggests, and nod along in all the meetings if you just want that internship on your resume for the 3-month stint. But if you want to be the one of the 6 that gets the job, raise your hand in that meeting with 6 VPs, say something that might go against the grain or bring a fresh idea. You might get your wrist slapped by 3 people in that afternoon and get a high five from 3 other people. But it's what's going to make you stand out. The bold ideas, the courage, the wild courage to have a quote unquote reckless idea, or, be shameless in your thinking that you have something worth saying, even as a 22-year-old.
Yes. And to that person, just scared, right? Because that's a lot of the listeners are feeling stuck.
Yeah.
Wanting more for their career, not knowing the next step. What do you suggest? Like, embarrass yourself, basically. And that's what I take from that. And truly, although that sounds cringe, that is just true. Like, say something and maybe you're embarrassed, and that's okay.
Like, it's worth the risk, because what's the worst that could happen? Somebody says no, or someone, thinks that you're an odd duck, but like, we need that. People want that. People want creative thinking. They want innovation. And so if you can show leading indicators of your ability to innovate, to think creatively, to think outside the box, like, that's what people want to hire for now, especially in an age of AI, where all the rote tasks, the rote thinking, the repeatable tasks are not going to be done by humans. What humans are going to have to do is be bold, is build relationships, is, do these things that might seem a little bit, just out there, like you said. Yeah. Embarrass yourself.
Yeah. As a leader, if you're choosing someone to be on your team, what are you looking for?
A very clear answer to this one: someone who warms the room with positive energy. Can I read a little thing from the book?
Of course.
Okay. I just have notes on page 148 because I referenced this to a client this morning, and here we go. To grow as a deal maker, impasse breaker, or all around mover and shaker, warm the room with positive energy. You might be great at solving problems and creating mutual benefit, but people have to like and trust you enough to let you prove it. Logically, being right should be enough, but feelings beat facts. People gravitate toward you if you add positive energy. Resistance to your ideas, suggestions, and requests melt away with a little personal warmth. Being likable sweetens every deal. So I have this client. She's just like a ray of sunshine, a burst of energy, and that's the person I want to hire. I want to hire the person who's going to bring me solutions as much as they bring me problems, who's going to stay upbeat when we've reorged for the 5th time in 3 years, and who says, I know you're telling us to run faster and faster. I think of it as not burning out. I think of it as like, let's not run faster. Let's grab a bicycle and see if we can even accelerate our pace more in the age of AI.
Yeah.
Someone who can make that kind of connection versus all the people who are thinking, I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out, I can't possibly do any more. There's no more you could squeeze from me. This same person said, why am I wrote this down. I can't say that I'm not hearing from my leaders when they're creating the opportunity to hear from them. So I've started to go to their town hall meetings. I've started to read their weekly newsletter. I've started to sign up for their office hours. All of my peers are complaining that we don't hear from leadership enough, but there are so many opportunities that they're giving us and we're simply not showing up. I've just started to start showing up. That is the person I want to hire, Candice. The person who has that kind of positive perspective and who feels like they're in control and that they can make things happen for them in this world where so much feels like it's out of our control.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. That is amazing. And that leads me to a question that's been on my mind. Building a career we love. And again, I've said this to you, everyone should love what they do. I'm very lucky that I love what I do. Brings me so much joy. I love it. I cannot wait to get to this desk and work every day. But building this career takes effort. It takes grit. It takes, I don't know, all the things. And I want to hear from you. What should we be telling people, early career or transitioning, what it takes? Every day is not going to be sunshine. So no matter how much I love my job, of course I have the hard days. So what would you say we're not talking enough about? We're not telling people out loud what it takes to build this career that we're proud of and that we love.
Yeah. I think what we're not talking about enough is that there's not some big break. Tara Schuster has a book called Buy Yourself the Effing Lilies, but the real word for effing, buy yourself the freaking lilies. It's a wonderful book. And she started as an intern at The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. And the interns were sitting around with Jon Stewart and someone asked the question, Jon, what was your big break? And he says, it wasn't some big break. It was a series of little breaks. And I'm paraphrasing here, but in my mind, this relates to the times that you did show up to your boss's office hours, the times that you wrote that email to the mentor saying, I have always admired you. And I think that there's a lot I can learn from you and also some stuff I can offer you and add value to you because I'm 22 and I'm new in my career and I can give you the perspective of, the alpha generation and help you understand what we're thinking about and add value in that way. The little breaks of applying for a role that you don't feel completely qualified for, the little breaks of using what and how questions, like we talked about, which are nosy questions to say, how can I better align my work with your company's OKRs? Or what would it take to get me to the next level and get promoted? These are the little breaks, and these compounded over time are what create maybe not the big break, but the breakthrough in your career that allows you to go after what you want and get it.
Oh, I love that so much. Tell us a little bit about your personal move, just because I know and I can probe you.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Sometimes I just have to ask very generic questions because I don't know the person, but I know you a little bit. So I know you move cross country. What did that take to do that? Were you still at Google or did you move before you left? And then, and I can speak from experience, moving to a different place is so damn hard. It's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, finding new people, finding my feet. So what got you to do the move and, how have you settled in?
Yeah. So we moved from New York City to Boulder in 2018. So pre-pandemic, short story is we moved for a lifestyle change. Boulder, Colorado has incredible weather and, you're not too far from me here in Colorado too, as we talked about. So just wonderful climate, wonderful weather, great work-life balance, good focus on outdoor activities versus the rat race of Manhattan. What did it take? It took pushing past my fear of judgment from my mother-in-law. And you probably weren't expecting that answer, but that is no joke, that relationship, right? Mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws can have a very powerful relationship. And my husband is from New York. So moving my two kids, who were 1 and 3 at the time, out of New York when my in-laws were very involved, and they're wonderful, awesome people, very involved. She would come in every Thursday and take my son Ari to toddler music class. And so to sit down with them and to say, this is what's right for us and our family at this time. And we know this is hard for you to hear, but this is what we're going to be doing in a few months. Honestly took a lot of selfishness. That's one of the other traits of wild courage, the courage to stand up for what you want, because give everyone else a leg up at your expense and you'll end up getting trampled. Mm-hmm. But I had to push through the fear of judgment by my mother-in-law, people pleasing, which is part of the brutal trait. People pleasing pleases no one and keeps you small. And I just had to cut through the bull and spare everyone's time, energy, and attention, and just say the hard thing, tear off the Band-Aid and say, we're moving. But that was honestly the hardest thing I had to push past. It was really fun to build up a new life here. Our kids were in preschool, so that was kind of a natural way to meet friends. But it's hard to make new friends in a new city. It's hard to make adult friendships. I have a friend, Jonathan Goodman. He has a book coming out called Unhinged Habits, and he talks a lot about making adult friendships. It comes out in early 2026. So that's a good one to check out. But yeah, I mean, it definitely required me tapping into my selfish trait.
Yeah.
Unapologetically.
Yes. And it sounds like it's been so good for you and the family and the kids and everything like that. So that's
it
awesome.
Has. Yeah,
I definitely want to check out this book. Yeah. Oh yeah, say that again.
I said we miss New York. I love Manhattan. People think I'm a New Yorker stuck in a Coloradan's body, whereas my husband's like so Colorado, like wearing the plaid and the and he's like rocking Patagonia, with the weighted vest. Yeah, he's like straight up Patagonia, and I'm like I'm literally got a blazer on. I'm like the hard charging, fast talking, super intense. But we love our Colorado sunshine.
That is awesome. Yeah, all the Patagonia. All right. Yeah, I need that book. I actually say my second book is going to be on adult friendship. So cool. I feel like this is a good starting point. That's awesome. Thanks for that.
That's so cool.
All right. Yeah, I'm already planning a second book. Crazy. I'm unhinged. All right. So
I love it.
I know we have to wrap up. So let me ask you the final question that I ask every guest.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I ask this question is because oftentimes we think, oh, if I could go back 20 years, I would do this differently. Or, there's all this viral posts that, oh, if I could go back 10 years, these are the 10 things I would do differently. And I feel like we give ourselves just too much of a hard time. Like I love what I did in my 20s and it set me up for where I am now. So that's why I asked the question, if you could go back in time to young you, no matter what time in your life, what would you thank yourself for doing then that really set you up for who you are in the life you have now?
So cool. Love the twist on this question. What would I go back and thank myself for doing? Well, I'm actually not going to go back very far at all. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say that as someone who has chased a lot of things in life, chased executive at Google, chased running a marathon in New York, chased hitting the New York Times bestseller list, the new thing I'm chasing is more time with my kids, because by the time your kids go to college or university, you will have spent 90% of the time you will ever spend with them. And so the decision that I don't have to dig too far back to look at, this is a more recent decision. The thing I'm thanking myself for now is that I'm chasing being high net freedom. I'm chasing picking my kids up from school every day at 2:30 versus staying at the office until 6 or 7 o'clock, which I did for nearly 2 decades. Mm-hmm. Recognizing that even if it means making less money in the next 10 years, I love to work. I'm never going to want to stop working anytime in the near future, so I can dial it up more when my kids are in college and beyond. And I'm not in these golden years of them actually wanting to spend time with me. And I am more proud of this decision than I think any other decision I've made as I enter this second phase of life, the second half of my life.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. That is, that really hits. As a mom, that is emotional. Awesome. I love that.
it does feel like a real chase, right? Like I thrive on the thrill of the chase. But it does feel like a chase because it's hard and it requires intentionality. It requires creating systems. It requires decreasing our nanny's hours from 30 a week to 10 a week, right? So that there's no backstop to who can pick them up at school. And so it's fun because I can gamify this just as much as I can gamify any other professional goal I've had in the last several decades.
Oh, I love it. Honestly, that's so beautiful. All right, Jenny, who should contact you? Why should they contact you?
You should contact me if you are running an organization of any size and you bring in external speakers, workshop facilitators, keynote speakers, and you'd like to partner together on me helping your company get more engagement out of your employees, build stronger leaders, help people thrive, not just survive in massive change and transition. And then you should contact me if you want to do one-on-one coaching and your company subsidizes it. You should not contact me if you are on a budget because my prices are for one-on-one coaching. That is, I think my prices are pretty standard for keynotes. But a lot of my clients have companies that subsidize their coaching, and then it's very reasonably priced for them. And it allows me to charge my worth for my time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I love that. Charge your worth for your time. Perfect. Okay. Any last words of wisdom you want to share with the listeners before we close this session out?
Well, I just want to say thank you. All of you listening and watching could have chosen the last, 45 minutes or so, half hour, 45 minutes of your time. You could have spent it anywhere and you chose to spend it here with us and investing in yourself. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to contribute to your goals.
Love that. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Bye.